Hello, welcome to Simple IELTS. Today we will talk about IELTS Writing Task 1, especially table report. In this lesson, you will learn how to understand the structure of a report in IELTS Writing Task 1. Number 2, make a plan before writing and write a table report. First, I would like to explain a little bit about what is table report in IELTS Writing Task 1. First, as you can see, there's a table containing data on a certain topic, and then there's a written information about this table. Let me read it for you. The table below gives information about consumer spending on different items in 5 different countries in 2020. And then there's an instruction that we have to follow. First is that summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So in essence, we have to do two things. Make a summary and then make comparisons of the data. Okay? And then there are two things that you have to know. First is that we only have 20 minutes to do this, and then the minimum number of words is 150. Fewer than 150, you will lose your marks. Okay, that's a little bit explanation about table report in IELTS Writing Task 1. And next, I would like to explain about structure of a report in IELTS Writing Task 1. Normally, the structure consists of introduction, number 1, which is written in paragraph 1. This is where we introduce the table by paraphrasing the written information. This is the written information. Okay. By paraphrasing, it means we rewrite the information with our own words. Okay. And then we also have to make a summary of the data. Remember that we have to summarize the information. So in essence, we have to make a summary, and we can do that by describing the general pattern of the data. And then number 3 is body. This is where we explain the table in detail, where you show numerical data. And then to explain clearly, I would suggest you to group the data based on similarities or differences. And lastly, body normally consists of 2 to 3 paragraphs, or in other words, it is written in paragraph 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Now, let's talk about how to make a plan for writing to help you write smoothly, because we have to use our 20 minutes here, remember 20 minutes, in the most efficient manner. So we have to know what we are going to write, and to do that we have to make a plan first. Okay. For introduction, we can paraphrase the written information by changing the words with synonyms, or with the words that have the same meaning with the original text or words, and or changing the sentence structure. And then in the overview part, we can do that by describing the general patterns of data. For example, in this case, we can make a summary based on the highest to the lowest spending of the 3 categories. As we can see, foods and drinks is the highest category. I mean, the numbers are a lot bigger than the others. And number 2 belongs to clothing, and number 3, or the lowest, belongs to leisure. Okay. Still about planning, now we talk about body. In order to explain things clearly, I'd suggest you make an order or a rank starting from the highest spending to the lowest. Why do we do that? Because we can easily explain and compare the data. For example, in body part 1, which is in paragraph 3, we can talk about foods and drinks. So in foods and drinks, Germany is number 1, followed by France. Number 3 is India, 4th Nepal, and the 5th is Bangladesh. And in body part 2, we can talk about clothing. The number 1 spot belongs to Germany, followed by France, and lastly, Nepal. In body part 3, we can talk about leisure. Number 1 is France, number 2 Germany, and number 3 is the three Asian countries, India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. So that's about how we make a plan before writing. Okay, now we prepare the synonyms. Okay, because we're going to write something with the words that are already given in the written information, and we have to paraphrase them, right? Remember? So, for example, spend, we can use expend, consume, allocate, budget, purchase, or shop. And country, remember there are 5 countries, so we can use nation, or we can say just the name of the country. And because we have to compare, we have to know the words to compare. For example, if we want to explain something is bigger or taller than another thing, we can say more, above, higher, slightly more than or above, or far or considerably more than or higher than. Still, about comparison, if we want to explain something smaller or shorter than another thing, we can say less or fewer. Less is for the uncountable noun, fewer is for the countable noun. For example, uncountable noun is money, the amount of money. Okay, for fewer, we can say people, number of people. We can count the how many people there are. Okay, and then we can say below, lower, slightly, slightly below, slightly lower, just below or just under. Same meaning with slightly, which mean which mean something insignificant, something not significant, or if something is significant, we can say far or considerably below or under. Okay, so that's about synonyms. Now let's practice. Starting from introduction. Remember that we can change the introduction by changing the words with synonyms and or change the sentence structure. For example, the table provides data regarding expenditures in 2020 on foods, drinks, clothing, as well as leisure in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, France, and Germany. So remember that in the written information, it says the table below gives information. So the synonyms are the table provides data regarding expenditures in 2020. So, sorry, by the way, the table below gives information about consumer spending. So consumer spending has the same meaning with expenditures, and the table below gives information has the same meaning with the table provides data regarding. And in 2020, well, in the written information, it is located in the last part, and in my introduction, it is located here in somewhere in the middle. Okay, so that is an example of changing the sentence structure. And then different items here in the written information has the same meaning with foods, drinks, clothing, as well as leisure. And then in 5 different countries in 2020 has the same meaning with India, Bangladesh, Nepal, France, and Germany. Okay, so that's about introduction. Now about overview. Remember, we can just describe the general patterns of the data by explaining the highest to the lowest spending of the 3 categories. For example, we can say that overall, in the 5 countries, the highest expenses belong to foods and drinks, tailed by clothing. So number 1 is foods and drinks, number 2 is clothing, or tailed by or followed by clothing. Whereas leisure was consumed the least. Okay, leisure was the lowest or the least. So that's about overview. Now let's talk about body. In body part 1 or in paragraph 3, we can talk about foods and drinks. Remember that number 1 is Germany, France, India, Nepal, and lastly Bangladesh. So we can talk like this, or we can write like this. The Germans and the French led the consumption of meals and consumable liquids with each around 1/5. Foods, I change it to meals, and consumable liquids has the same meaning with, yes, drinks, with each around 1/5. 1/5 means here, for France and Germany respectively, the figures are 19% and 20%. Or we can say that around 20%, or around 1 per 5, or around 1/5. So we can say that with each around 1/5. On the other hand, The other three figures were lower, ranging from 11% to 17%. Okay, for India, Bangladesh, and Nepal, the figures are 17, 11, and 13. So we can say ranging from 11 to 17. Okay, now let's talk about clothing. As you can see, number 1 belongs to Germany, number 2 is France, third India, fourth and fifth is Nepal. So we can write, in relation to the purchase of clothing, the two European countries were still on the top front, where Germany's number was 14% and 11% for France. Meanwhile, the expenditures of India's, Nepal's, and Bangladesh's were merely half of their Germany's or even less. By merely half, it means only half of the Germany's number. India's number is 7%, whereas Germany's is 14%, so 7 is half of 14. So that's why I wrote merely half. Or even less means less than 7%. That is for Bangladesh and Nepal's number, 6% and 5% respectively. Okay, that's for clothing. As for leisure, as you can see, number 1 spot belongs to France, number 2 belongs to Germany, number 3 is for India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. So we can write, as for leisure, it was the product that people in France allocated their budget the most for, which is 5%, compared to the others, followed by Germany with only 1% less. By 1% less, it means 1% less than 5%, which is 4%. Okay, so that's how you rewrite in your own words. Okay, we can say 1% less, not 4%. Okay, carry on. The three Asian countries had the same smaller figure. So, which is 3%. They are all 3%. Okay, so this is an example of IELTS Writing Task 1 table report that we already discussed from the beginning. First, there is introduction, and then overview, and then body in the third, fourth, and the fifth paragraph. The word count is 162 words. So it is already more than 150. So that's it for my explanation for table report in IELTS Writing Task 1. Thank you for watching until the end, and see you in my other videos.